Haha, you guys thought that the Far From Land hyperfixation was over, but nope. It's time for a follow-up video. This one's probably not going to be as structured as my last video on it, because it's really just me trying to tie up loose ends and correct things that were wrong about the previous video, as well as present you guys with some new information that I have found. Because apparently I didn't know this, but there's a second secret ending for doing the SOS challenges. I had no idea that was a thing because I'd done the SOS challenges, but I found them on YouTube and I was like, you know what, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the lore, and let's talk about a bunch of things that I missed in the previous video. So, let's start with probably one of my biggest mistakes from the previous video. It was stating that Joshua Newell is, because I didn't know his last name, I forgot his name was Joshua Newell, but Joshua Newell is the brother of Malcolm Newell, who is the guy who, and he's the guy who dies. He's the guy who dies at the Celadon warehouse in 2007. I was also wrong about that. Yeah, this happened. There are multiple different incidences of Shadow Marcus killing people. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, so Joshua Newell is Malcolm's brother. He dies in the warehouse, and that happens about a month before the robots are loaded onto the ship and then taken to Sonarix's lab. I think that's a pretty important distinction, because it was really stupid how I was like in the last video, it's like, oh, well, they put the robots on the ship and then it took them 6 years to actually like transfer them. No, that's not what happened. It was just like a month before, which makes sense. So that means that there were 3 total incidences of Shadow Marcus or the Kraken killing people, which makes sense. I mean, during his speech, he shows 3 different crime scenes. So the ones that we know of are the one in 1999, he kills the night guard at the Marcus Robotics facility. In 2001, apparently he kills like this guy and this girl. I forgot their names, but I'm going to put the case file on the screen. And finally, in 2007, he gets out of his container, he kills Joshua Newell, and then he goes back into his container, which explains why at the end of Five Nights at Marcus 2, it's the last shot is like zooming in on like this crate that I think is like propped open a little bit. And in the SOS ending, you kind of see 2 technicians kind of talking about it at the Celadon warehouse, and then you see kind of the motion detector show Shadow Marcus gets out of his cage, and then he kind of like opens it, and then he like kills Josh, and he goes back into his thing. So it kind of explains, I guess, how Shadow Marcus was able to get his hands on like all these different body parts and like put them on himself and become the Kraken. It doesn't really explain what Shadow Marcus is, because sometimes he's just kind of an apparition, sometimes he's like in Far From Land, he's a physical robot. So I feel like if there's any continuation to this universe, there should probably be some explanation of what Shadow Marcus exactly is, because like none of like anything on like the board that one of the Celadon people made on the middle deck, that board, you know the one I'm talking about, like there's nothing really about Shadow Marcus. They just say he wasn't on the ship, and then suddenly he was on the ship. Yeah, I don't know. Shadow Marcus is probably like the biggest mystery left for the game. Especially considering, heyo, I forgot to talk about this as well, the normal secret ending for getting all 4 tapes. If you go to the middle deck and you open up the board, and then you get a flashback to like 70 plus years later, and you see that Sonarix sends a submarine down and they find the Kraken's remains, and that's very interesting. And I've seen some people like say that the submarine that was sent down is the freaking one from Submarine Simulator, and I don't think that's true. I don't think, because that would mean that this Marcus Robotics stuff is all part of the Smiles family lore, and I don't think that's true. I think that's just a hoax. I think it's just a coincidence. But no, I don't think this Five Nights at Marcus Far From Land stuff has anything to do with Submarine Simulator and the Smiles family stuff. But I mean, I can understand why people would think that, because Jerry from that game's universe looks a lot like the Kraken. But it's not one-to-one, and they're not the same thing. At least I hope not. I hope not. I really hope that they're not part of the same universe, because that would be interesting. But yeah, so we have Sonarix now, because Celadon's kind of out of the picture. Marcus Robotics is out of the picture. The robots have been delivered to Sonarix, and they have sent down 73 whole years later. They have sent down this submarine to the destroyed remains of the boat to get this, which makes me think that Genesis is not it's going to be a prequel and a sequel, because it's going to explain the robots' how the robots like got their sentience and stuff, but it's also going to be kind of the end of all this Five Nights at Marcus stuff, because from old gameplay stuff that we've seen of Genesis, we know it's not a FNAF game, as in, at least to the point where like you're stuck in an office. Like all the old stuff has shown that Genesis is it's a free roaming game. So we'll just have to see exactly what it has in store, but I believe it's probably going to be like tying up the beginning of the series and then simultaneously telling us the end of the series, which I think is pretty cool. I think Far From Land has definitely made the Five Nights at Marcus universe and the Five Nights at Marcus lore is made it one of the most interesting Roblox kind of lore story things I've ever seen. I think the way that Far From Land ties together all these like really loose like details, I think it's a masterclass in FNAF fan game storytelling. And I just think in general, I think Five Nights at Marcus, not Five Nights at Marcus, I think Five Nights at Marcus games are good, but like I said, like Far From Land feels like a genuine like actual game. Like it feels better than most FNAF fan games do, like on like Game Jolt and whatever. It is such an incredibly well-made game, and it puts so much of other like Roblox horror games to shame. Like Weird Strict Dad wishes it was even a 1/1,000,000th of good of a game as Far From Land is. And I'm glad that now Far From Land is getting more of the attention it deserves, because frankly it deserves to be played by everyone. I hope to see even more people kind of jump onto the game and give it the love and attention it deserves. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for this video. Sorry if it's kind of more disorganized and stuff, but whatever. So hopefully that ties things up. Before I end, let's do a quick breakdown of everything that happens timeline-wise. So if we begin 1990s Project Genesis, the 4 core members of the Marcus lineup are made, and they go through their experiments. Some of them are smarter than others. Shadow Marcus is made somewhere in that time as well. He gets the ability to start controlling the other robots, and they're going to be transferred to a different facility. They get a night guard for a few times, and then that night guard dies. In 2001, while they're being transferred, they kill 2 more people. And then in 2007, we get the Newells. We get first Joshua Newell. He's on kind of like his boat thing, like transferring cargo and stuff. And then at the end of his shift, he's killed in the Celadon warehouse. It's a big kind of thing. Celadon covers it up. Then Malcolm becomes the ship captain. He's a little kind of sad, I guess. And he does his thing. He learns the truth about the robots thanks to Mason and the tapes that he finds. He crashes the ship into a giant rock or iceberg after the animatronics are supposedly delivered. Shadow Marcus's remains are found on the bottom of the ocean by Sonorix like nearly a century later. And that's where we are, waiting for Genesis, waiting to see how that turns out. And yeah, that's about it. Like and subscribe, and bye.